Profit first, I actually believe, actually spawns innovation. So I challenge a lot of the common beliefs. One of the most common beliefs that I challenge in this book is called gap accounting, and it stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. It's been formulaically used for every business in existence since the existence of business. And it's simply this: sales minus expenses equals profit. And the idea behind that is sell as much as you can, incur expenses, and the remainder is profit. Problem with that formula is profit's an afterthought. It's like a leftover. It's something that will surprise you at the end of the year. I believe the formula is take our profit first. So sales minus profit equals expenses. Sell what you can, extract a percentage in advance immediately as profit, reserve it away, and the remainder is expenses. The challenge is there's less money available for expenses now. So people say, well, if less money for expenses, I can't use as much to invest in my company. I can't grow as quickly. It's going to prevent growth. It takes money to make money. We all know that. I totally challenge that too. When we have less money available for our business to run it, it forces us to do less things. We have less money. And if you can do less things, that means you can only service fewer problems. You can only solve fewer problems. And if you can only solve fewer problems, it means you only can serve a smaller group of customers that have that same problem. Which, by the way, when you serve few people with the same type of problem and you serve them very well efficiently, that's called a niche. That's where we want to go. The riches are in the niches. So by making less money available to us, we become more focused by force because there's less money. We start serving a special type of group of customers repeatedly well, very efficient. We become recognized by that client base because we're the best at what we do, and we start expanding in that client base. And that's where our business starts growing explosively.
So there's a little bit of confusion here, I think, because from what I understand, you're saying is limit your expenses and then work with what you have ultimately, instead of like set that budget ahead instead of letting your expenses dictate your profits.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Okay, so but what if your growth is based on marketing, right? Like expenses are often part of marketing, correct?
Yeah, hugely a part of marketing.
So if you're going to grow, like, and you have an opportunity to grow 200% by spending twice as much on certain revenue channels that are driving, let's say, direct sales to your business, right? Then you're saying to not do that?
Correct. I'm saying ask a new question. If the default the default answer is the obvious one. If $100 of marketing brought in $200 of business, I'm going to do $200 of marketing. I'll bring in $400 of business. That's the obvious answer. My question back is, if you did $100 of marketing that brought $200, why aren't you doing $50 of marketing that do $400? Maybe there's alternative marketing strategy. It's very easy when we have money available to continue the same process. I suggest, as a rule, I ask every customer, I say, how do you do double what you're doing today with half the cost? And people are like, I never thought of that. That's hard. Big questions get big answers. And I'll tell you this, if you're not asking it, your competition is. And so it may be working for now, but at a certain point, it's going to fall apart because your competitor will find the better way. They'll find the way to do the marketing at half the cost, double the revenue, and then there's going to be a shift toward their strategy, and you're going to be wiped out. So we just got to ask a different question is what I'm saying.
But don't limiting expenses also limit workforce and limit
how do you
workforce?
Yes.
So now that gets into a whole new topic.
How do you get your efficiency then, right? So how do you do double the production with half your workforce? How do you do double the marketing return with half the marketing? Yeah, it starts asking really tough questions, which is the ultimate of the entrepreneur, because the guy or gal who figures this out is the one who becomes the innovative company. So less money available for our business forces us to become more innovative. Innovators change markets. It's called a paradigm shift, or now they call it a pivot, and there are all these different terms. But it changes the way the market behaves, and then the entire market needs to adjust, and you've put yourself as a business in the forefront.
So can you tell me a specific example of how that's worked for you? Because, I mean, that's what your organization teaches now, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So we go.
So can you give me maybe a case study or something that you've done? That you don't necessarily have to name people, but maybe give us an idea of what's happened.
Yeah. So there's quite a few. I'm thinking there's a movie theater we did this with. So there's a movie theater in Wyoming, 5 locations. They own 5 movie theaters, and they sell a ticket for, I think, $15 a ticket. At the end of the day, their profits are basically break even. The question was, they said, well, we got to sell more tickets. We got to get more customers coming in. And we said, no, how do you sell a ticket for $30? How do you double a ticket for $30 and cut your costs in half? Well, if you rent a movie, like a new blockbuster that just came out today, say to rent that movie for a theater will be $1,000 to buy that movie to play it over again for licensing. If you buy an old movie, the Blues Brothers or whatever, some popular one from 30 years ago, the cost is substantially less, about 1/10 the cost. So we said, well, if we want to double our revenue with half the cost, why don't we start broadcasting old movies? But now we're going to change the layout from a traditional theater to a theater with couches, and we're going to have a waiters instead of the guys just walking up and down the aisles. We're going to have waiters bringing food to your table, and you're going to pay $45 a ticket. And it's going to include this wait staff. Instead of the 4 guys that walk up and down the aisles, we're going to have 4 people delivering food and stuff, and change the layout and experience. It's a no-brainer. The place is packed. People are coming because it's such a unique experience. So that's a classic example. Doing business the same way wouldn't work. It's very hard for them to keep doing the business the same way they were and double the revenue, half the cost. I don't even know if that's possible. But when you ask that question, you got to look at it from a new angle and do it a new way.
So does this work only with failing businesses? Because, I mean, that seemed like they weren't really making the profits they needed to make, right? So they came to you and they said, hey, how do we increase profits based on the fact that we need to bring more people in, and you said, no, let's look at it from a different angle. But in the case that a business is very profitable and is doing very well, does that same attitude apply?
Well, you'll become the innovator. So large corporations do this strategy. Now, let me tell you, if you're very profitable and you're making money and things are cruising, definitely milk it. Like, I'm not saying abandon what's working. The old, it ain't broke, don't fix. I still believe in that. So if your business is very profitable today and you're cruising, milk it for all it's worth. But realize there's competitors coming in and they're going to pull the rug out from you at some point, some way, somehow. So be prepared. So what large corporations do is they do this exact strategy. They'll milk it, but they'll spark a new company to compete with themselves and say, we're putting you in a garage, we're going to fund you a little bit, but you got to figure this out and you got to find a way to take us down. And now, when that little company starts growing, if it does take down the big company, they own that company anyway. And if it doesn't, nothing, ventured, nothing gained, it's okay. So if you're doing well, I don't consider you busting up what's not broke, but do be prepared. Someone's trying to do it somewhere, so maybe you can experiment on the side a little bit.
What is the biggest struggle entrepreneurs face when trying to shift their ideology from, going to that, from their original known model to this kind of profit first model?
So I think a lot of us like to brag. I don't know if that's the word brag, but we feel comfort in size. So, and I'm nothing special here. The exact same thing. As I grew my companies, I was saying, oh, I just passed 3 million in revenue. Ooh, we're on a run for 7.5 million. Look how great I am. I would throw those numbers out. But behind the scenes, PJ, I was struggling. Like, I remember a couple of months, I didn't take any salary whatsoever, and I had to finance my house to cover the salary for my employees. So I think the paradigm shift is to realize size doesn't matter after all. It's the bottom line that matters. And if we get stuck in this mentality of I got to grow to show, you're going to be in a trap. You're going to be in this rat race. I want to change the mentality to the bottom line. And I want people to ask how big your business is. I want them to ask how healthy is your business.